Hello, my name is Samar. I also go by Sam or First Time Panner, and there's a motorcycle revving its engine right outside my window. This will be an update for my Pan Those palettes. It's supposed to be like a seasonal eyeshadow palette and then year-long face palette. There it goes. Anyway, I basically, I've been using the face palette this entire year. Not every single day, but I have been using it except for 1 month. I think there was 1 month where I didn't use it at all. Other than that, I've been using it every single month and it just never looks different. But yeah, this is both a face palette and eyeshadow palettes. Maybe I'll actually start with the face palette just to get it over with. I hate having to end with it because it's so disappointing. That motorcycle is still, I don't know what it's doing. Maybe that's just a car with a really bad engine. But also, I don't know how it would be going back and forth so quickly if it wasn't a motorcycle. Regardless, I think it's finally gone, hopefully. But now there's a helicopter. Okay, I'm just gonna go for it. This is the face palette. It does look different. Last night, I kind of just was losing my mind because I decided to repress something, and then after repressing one thing, not even in this palette, I decided to rearrange literally all of my magnetic palettes. So this is what this looks like now. I did take out the highlight. I have it here so I can show you, but again, it doesn't, even though I've been using it, it does not look any different. There's the highlight here. As you can see, I also have this repressed in an eyeshadow pan that I don't use because I'm just always using the highlight. And still, I mean, you can see that there's some disturbance, but it doesn't look used at all. Oh, and that bronzer is the thing that I repressed. All this for that. But this is the rest of the palette. So yeah, again, it looks the same. I will say though, just randomly, I noticed maybe a week ago, these two blushes are now kind of powdery. And before, because when I repress things, I really press them down, to the point where I kind of have to scrub the pan to get something. But all of a sudden, these two blushes, they're repressed Frankens. There goes Rosie. They're all of a sudden, I get kick up when, powdery kick up when I use them, which has never happened before. So I don't really know what that means. Maybe they'll start going more quickly. I'm definitely not gonna hit pan in the next month in either of them, but maybe I'll actually start seeing some progress. Now that I got that over with, let's move on to the eyes. Poor Rosie, she wants to look out the window. I'll open the blinds as soon as I'm done. I'm wearing both of my, I have one focus seasonal, can I do more air quotes, but I have a focus palette, but I've basically been using both of these palettes in the exact same capacity. I almost always use them together. That being said, I've only used them a handful of times in this past month. So I'm wearing both the Pat McGrath, what is this? Eye Ecstasy Sublime Quint and the ABH Norvina on my eyes today. First, let me talk about the Norvina because something really, I'm being so dramatic. We almost lost this palette again. It was in the middle of the night. I don't know what my cats were doing, but somehow I think both of my cats were jumping onto my desk where I have all my beauty stuff and where I get ready. So all of my stuff was on my desk. And I think this was balanced on top of a container or something. It wasn't flat on my desk. So when I told my cats to get off my desk, they got startled. So they ran off of my desk and knocked this palette over. And somehow in the 2.5 feet between where this was sitting on my desk and the floor, this palette opened. I don't know how. And then decided to fall face down on my floor. And as soon as I heard something fall, I knew it was probably a palette, but I didn't think that happened. So when I turned on the lights, and this was at midnight, I literally was no. I was so sure every single shade in this palette had just shattered and was all over my floor. Luckily, I was able to salvage it. The only thing that broke somehow was this Dreamer shade, but this one has been crumbling since I dropped this maybe 6 months ago or 5 months ago. I dropped this palette and that shade has been crumbling ever since then. Everything else was intact, believe it or not. But I still like wanted to kind of like press everything back in and like spray it with a bunch of alcohol to sanitize it, because even though I had just cleaned my floors, I hadn't, you know, I've never sanitized these floors. That's not really something I do. So I made sure to douse this in alcohol multiple times. And then I kind of like dusted off and like wiped off the top layers of the shadows, and then put more alcohol on top, and then I like pressed everything down with a tissue just so that nothing was really loose in there. So Dreamer definitely looks a lot more stable in the pan than it was, because before I had just been dry pressing it, but I think it just needed some alcohol in there. And then so far I've only used one shade, which is the shade Incense, which is kind of like the base brown shade. You can't really see it, but the base brown shade that I have all over my eyes, I used that one today, and it's still powdery but a lot less powdery than it was before. Like ABH shades just have so much kick up. So as long as I don't get an eye infection, hopefully not, I would say maybe this falling off my desk and me having to press everything down might make this palette, like there might be a silver lining to it, because it'll make this palette a little bit more pleasant for me to use without having to like blow a bunch of colorful dust all over my desk every single day. So on top of that, I have what is this called? This shade Illicit, which is like a super dark, almost black brown. I have that in my outer corner, as you can definitely see. And then I put the shade, I think it's this one called Corruption. I put this shade, which is a gold, it's like a bronzy gold and cranberry duochrome all over my eyes, but usually you can only see the cranberry. And then on my inner corner, I did put this shade Dreamer, which I just forgot about until now. I put this on my inner corner, and this is the first time using that shade in a while, and I forgot just how pretty it is. You can't even really see how nice it is on camera, but I just love that shade as an inner corner. Unfortunately, I yet again lost all my progress on this shade, because this one I did actually have to kind of like repress into the pan. So again, it's kind of just flattened out, and then I kind of did lose my progress on my matte shades, because, or like not lose my progress, but I kind of lost the dip that I was making because I was trying to wipe off like the surface of the pans. And I guess that kind of goes for all of the shades, but I do have like, even though they might not be as noticeable, you can still tell that I have some dips in this palette, so I'm happy with that. And again, I'm going to continue to use this palette. The one thing I do want to mention though is I did use the shade Soul twice in this past month. Before this became my focus palette, it had been a long time since I'd used this palette, and I forgot that the satins in this palette, or kind of just like all ABH satins, they do not blend well. Once you put them on your eye, they're gonna stick wherever you put them. So I did have one day where I kind of just looked like, basically there was a lot of this shade on my eye. I was like, basically nearly to my brow bone was just a periwinkle shade all over, and I had to wear it to work. Yes, I did. But because like, yeah, I was just kind of trying to make things slightly less patchy. It's still like the shade, all of the satins in here are very hard to use, and the satins are Base, Soul, and Love. This pink shade right here, they're all very, very difficult to use. But I did use Soul twice because I finally started to wear more of my sweaters, and I do have a few. I definitely did buy a sweater just in that exact color just so I could use that shade, but I've been wearing sweaters that I have more in that color of. I don't think I'm using these words properly. It's like 4:30 p.m. and I haven't eaten anything today, so sorry. But I think I'm gonna order a Domino's pizza after this. I think I deserve it. But I've been wearing that shade and I've been enjoying it. Like, I like wearing the shade. Is kind of fun, especially to do a monochromatic look, and I will be doing a monochromatic get ready with me requested by, I think it was Alyssa. But I love a monochromatic look, so I do like wearing that shade. It's just not something I would ever reach for unless I was wearing that exact color in my clothing. But now I just have to use the shades Drama, this darkest metallic in the palette, and then Love. I've given up on Base. I don't really care about using that one anymore. But I do want to use Love and Wild Child in a look together. I also gave up on Celestial before I even rolled this palette in because it's a dead shade. But those 3 shades I still need to use, and Passion. Okay, so I have a lot to use in this palette before the end of the year, but I definitely think I can do it. There it goes again. There aren't any new dips in this palette, and I was totally expecting to use this eyeshadow palette on Thanksgiving, which was just a few days ago. I did not. I actually ended up using an e.l.f. eyeshadow stick, and then I used my Danessa Myricks Twin Flames like liquid shadow in the shade Lover, which is so pretty. I just did not have time. I think I had like 15 minutes to do my makeup because I ended up waking up late the day of, and I was going to someone's house for Thanksgiving and I had to bring food there. So I kind of just needed to do the quickest thing, but I did not use this palette, and this will be the first time in 4 years that I didn't wear Pat McGrath on Thanksgiving. Not that it's necessary, but it just kind of became a tradition. I wore this palette on Thanksgiving last year, and then the 2 years before that I wore, I think it's called the Bronze Seduction, the 6-pan palette. I wore that palette on like the 2 Thanksgivings before last Thanksgiving. So yeah, every Thanksgiving since I've been doing makeup, I've been wearing Pat McGrath on my eyes until this year, so I broke a tradition. But I actually did really like, I loved my makeup that I did that day. So shout out to the Twin Flames eyeshadows. If you haven't tried these yet, you really should. So that's it for this update. Thank you for listening to me ramble and listening to the automobile / motorcycle outside my window. I'm gonna order a Domino's pizza and fold the laundry that's been sitting on my bed for the past hour. I'll see you in my next video, and until then I hope you have a great day. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.